Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Beth Larson, and I am here to share with you my experience for my paralegal internship at Topper's Pizza Inc., specifically in the Franchise Development Department. So my internship was completed in the spring of 2018. The primary role of a franchise development department at Topper's Pizza is three specific functions. So one of those functions is franchise sales, and franchise sales are regulated by the Federal Trade Commission as well as various states having their own regulations over and above that. Also, real estate site selection is a primary role of the development department at Toppers, and construction support of new stores. So during my time this spring at the internship, a huge part of my responsibilities fell to what is known every year as the franchise disclosure document annual renewal registration. So the FDD, franchise disclosure document, the FTC requires that is renewed every year by every franchising company. So March through January, the majority of my time was spent collaborating with department heads on the changes that needed to be made to the various franchise agreements and contracts. Also collaborating with attorneys to get their input and suggestions and recommendations on changes we were considering making, or things that we changed to our policies, procedures, training, whatever it might be, so that they could help us capture that properly in the franchise disclosure document, or I'll reference it as FDD. So that was a good part of my time collaborating between departments and with the attorneys. Also, gathering information on statistics such as new store openings, store closings, transfers, terminations, things like that might have happened, and those are tracked within the numbers of each state. Again, we also, being that we are regulated by the FTC, we have to disclose a lot of financial information. So we're required to submit an audited financial statement for the previous fiscal year for Topper's Pizza Inc. Each franchise company would need to do that as well. In addition, we provide statistics on average unit sales as well as profit and loss. All this information has to be, there has to be really good methodology and reported ethically, but it has to be able to be substantiated if there are ever any question. So it's important that we are using good information before we compile all this together and have our attorneys register it with the various states. So once it's registered, any number of the 12 states that have their own franchise disclosure regulations can either approve it, deny it, or ask for other information. So it's really important that during that period of time we're tracking it very closely for each state, so that we don't inadvertently try to sell and sign a contract in a state that's not yet re-registered. So we would call that a black period or a dark period. So that was the majority of my time spent during the spring internship. Secondarily to that, which isn't really secondary, but as far as time that was involved, would be all the preparation of the different agreements. So the franchise agreements, new franchise agreements, renewal franchise agreements, there could be amendments to agreements. There could be transfers from one franchisee to another when someone wants to sell their store. Also, we would possibly have default notifications and terminations. So those documents it's really critical that they're accurate. Again, looking to the attorneys to help advise us on different states and what their laws might be as far as notification periods that are required and so forth. Another responsibility that falls to our department is the real estate site selection and the leasing of sites. So the franchisees are required to find their own sites, but that comes under our support of our department. So typically, if a paralegal wouldn't be involved in this aspect, but in a smaller company, we may wear many hats. So site selection involves accepting a site package from a franchisee, preparing analytics and demographics on it, being sure that it's complete and that we would have everything that a franchisee needs to provide us. Going out and doing a site review, a physical site evaluation, and driving and looking at the market to determine if it meets the requirements of Topper's Pizza. So once those factors appear to be in order. Packages presented to the real estate committee, and again, that they can say yay, nay, or they need further information. If a site is accepted, then the franchisee would move on to lease negotiation, and the franchise development department would be involved in that because we have various requirements of a lease including or excluding specific things, so that the franchisee has the freedom to be able to brand it, market it, and it has the right image of a Toppers. So there's a lot of time that's involved in that process, and back and forth between landlords, attorneys, and franchisees before a lease is ever negotiated fully and executed. Another area I spent some of my time was with intellectual property. So on occasion, it's brought to the attention of Toppers Pizza that there might be some trademark infringement. So what I did was when we became aware of something, I would research the information that was provided to me, look at the location that might be involved, potentially the infringer, and talk with either a store manager or a franchisee of a Toppers in that area, and then gather any kind of evidence, like anything that was potentially consumer confusion or any marketing material that showed trademark infringement, so we could gather that information and have it support our claim. And then I typically would gather as much as I could before I would engage the IP attorney to begin the work and to send any letters on cease and desist from using our mark or our word. So I think that covers the majority of the items that I spent the bulk of my time on during the internship. What I'd like to say is that at Toppers Pizza, the culture was really very fun, a fun culture. Work hard, play hard, team mentality. So people are always excited to share their knowledge to help other people grow, which really makes for a strong environment. If you're interested in corporate law, a franchise company is a great place. My experience there is I got to touch on, well, primarily is corporate law, franchise law, real estate law, intellectual property would be the areas of law that I really got to sink my teeth into and become more experienced. So if you have any interest in corporate law, a franchise company is a great place to look for an internship. Thank you for your time. Goodbye.